Welcome back to my channel, Learn at Cloud Analytics. Sakshi has asked me in one of her comments, like, what is the main difference between enable load and include in report refresh? So, in this video, I'm going to provide you an important performance tip on why it is important to have this options being disabled and enabled when it is needed. Okay, so let's get into the discussion part. So I have already connected to a dataset, which is my Superstore dataset, and as you see here, I have connected to three different tables. Now, if I ever wanted to uh, disable, or if I do not want to include one of these tables in my reporting point of view, then I can just exclude that particular table being brought into my data model. All right. So if I need to disable that particular table from being part of my data model, then I can choose to select the enable load to be unselected. Okay. So if I click on this enable load, and this would give us a pop-up which is a warning, and this is saying that if I disable this load, it will remove the table from the report, but it will also impact the reports that have been developed based on that particular table. So we would need to be cautious about which table we would like to disable the load and which table we would need to keep it. Okay, the main important thing that we have to keep in our mind is, if we disable this particular option enable load for that particular query, then this particular table will not be loaded into the data model. Okay, so if you ever wanted to build a schema where a specific table should not be brought into a data model, then you would need to disable this default option to the do not include in that particular data model. Now, what is the benefit of disabling this particular table in bringing into the data model? So, as you are very familiar about Power BI, which is primarily based on a memory consumption. So, our resources are our primary aspects, which is quite important to enhance the report performance. So, therefore, it is likely that if we are ever wanted to consider only few tables to be brought into the model view, then kindly disable the other tables to not include in there, because by bringing in the unwanted tables into the model, that would impact on the performance of the table or performance of your Power BI report that you build on top of that. Okay, so that is the reason why we go ahead and disable this enable load. Now, if I quickly disable this, let me do that. So I'm trying to continue. Now, if you go back to this option again, you see that this option has been now unselected. Now, let's try to save and close this Power Query editor, and I'll come back to this. So, as you see, the table that has been loaded here has not included my table, which I have not considered. And if you go back to the data model, you can only see only two tables, which is my orders and manager, but you did not find the other table, which is the returns table. So, which means that it has not included that particular table to be part of my model view. However, if you refresh the data within this Power BI desktop, it will refresh the data within from that particular table as well. Though it has not been visible and included in the data model, but still the data which is relying or which is there in that particular table that is not part of the data model will also be included, and the data would be flown to the other tables if ever you use that to be as a secondary or as an intermediate data source. Okay, so if I click on refresh, so when I do a refresh, it will also bring in the data from my other table that is not part of my report. All right, now what is the other option? The other option that I was talking about is, let me go back to the Power Query editor. So here if I right click on this returns table, so you see this other option which has also been by default enabled, which is the include in report refresh. So as I did mention, if you disable the option enable load, then that particular table will not be loaded to the data model. But when we refresh the data set, there is also a query sent to the data source. Okay, so the other option that I was talking about is include and report refresh. So when we disable the include and report refresh option, the data will not update in the report view of Power BI desktop even after you click the refresh option in the desktop. So which means that it would not impact, or it does not do anything. Okay, so that is the main difference between enable load option and include and report refresh. So enable load means if you disable this option, then that particular table will not be included in your data model view, and that would reduce, or that will help you improve the performance by not being considered in your memory. And but if you refresh the data source, then the table would be updated with the recent changes that might have happened within that table, and it will be flown into the Power BI desktop. However, the other option, which is the include and report refresh, if you disable this, then that even if you refresh the data source, that data will not be refreshed. Okay, so these are the differences between these two options. So I hope this topic has now been clarified. But if you still have any questions, or if you are not able to understand, please do leave a comment below in the video, and I'll try to answer to that question. So if you like this video, please do like, share and subscribe, and please do not forget to share your comments in the comment section. Thank you.